Welcome back to The Unknown Angler. Today we're going to be tying the Borski Slider. It's an oldie but goodie and one of my favorites. We're going to start with a size 2 hook and some 140 denier thread in tan. I'm going to tie in at about almost back to the halfway point in the hook. Tie forward a little bit. We're going to secure some medium-sized eyes. Remember, if you tie this fly smaller in sizes 4s, 6s, 8s, then use smaller eyes, obviously. And you don't have to use these short-shanked hooks. I like them because I don't have to tie such a large body, and it makes a nice fly. Anyway, tie back to the bend of the hook, and then we're going to add some craft fur. I'd like to use a little 2-inch patch, and from that I just take out the longer fibers and select out the shorter ones from the bottom. And I'm not going to use the entire length. These are 3 to 4 inches in length, the fibers. I'm only going to use maybe 2.5 inches of the fiber. Probably about 3 to 4 times the hook shank. Remember, they're short shanked hooks, so be careful. Then what we're going to add to that is a little crystal flash. Crystal flash is easy to tie in. I take 3 stands, I double it over, and I tie it right on top of the hook shank at about the midsection of the body, and I push down with my thumb so it goes around the hook shank, and then I gather them all together at the end and cut them off just slightly shorter than the tail itself. To that I'm going to add a grizzly hackle. I'm going to tie that in at the base, take out some of the fibers at the base. Now I'm going to tie the body forward very, very neatly because I'm going to palmer the grizzly hackle through that body and leave that body pretty much as it is. Now if you want to make this thing rock solid, you can add a little glue to the body before you palmer the grizzly hackle through. I've never really felt the need to do that, but you can do that. I palmer almost to the eyes, and then I tie it off, leaving myself a small gap behind the eye. And you'll know why I do that in just a second, because I'm going to flip this hook over. I'm going to start tying in the deer hair head. So flip the hook over, and I'm going to tie all the deer hair in from the bottom of the fly and wrap it around the top. I cut off just enough deer hair to cover the hook shank. And we're going to leave that. We're not going to actually trim that back. I do leave enough hair in the stubble there to do a little trimming on that before I do the single bunch, and it's about the size of a pencil, the single bunch of deer hair up in the front of the fly. And I'm going to spin that around the entire front. Now, this takes a little practice, but wrap your head through the deer hair and pick out some of the stuff that maybe gets trapped underneath. And you can actually look around and push it back in, but I don't pack this in densely. This is not supposed to float. This is definitely a sinking fly, and all it does is move a little bit of water and give yourself a nice little head on the fly. Similar to a muddler minnow. And at this point, you can whip finish just in front of the eye. And if you'd like, you can add a drop of super glue to that too. If you do that, it will make this fly absolutely bomb-proof. Be careful how much you add. It will soak up into those fibers, and it'll make a pretty much a bomb-proof head, but it's a nasty head too. So the trimming, the only thing I can tell you about the trimming is it takes a little practice. And trim off less. I'm doing it 3 times the speed here basically because it takes me a little while to trim these, and I trim a little and then I trim a little bit more and I keep going after it. It probably takes me as much time to trim the head as it does to tie the rest of the fly. You don't need to do that. It's just a personal preference on my part to try to get a nice neat head and try to get a nice looking fly. In the end, you should be able to tie about a half a dozen of these an hour. So yeah, that's pretty good for a saltwater fly. That's not a bad fly to tie. Once you're done with that, like I said, it takes a little while to trim it. But once you're done with it, you can flip the fly over, take yourself a Pantone marker, and just color up the tail with a little variation. I usually put 3 to 4 stripes on the tail just to give it that nice little crimpy look. And there you have it. We're all done. Maybe a couple of little dots in the head too. There you go.